Hey, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Cloud Talk Live. Everyone, my name is, as you know, Jeff DeVerter, and I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology. Oh boy, have we got us a good one today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Something that's very different than what we normally do. And will be a trend for what we're doing in the future. As I just saw there, I want you to introduce yourself in the comments below. Would love to know who's here and where you're from. And as always, if you want to get a hold of us over here at the Rackspace Solve program, super easy. Just shoot an email over to solve@rackspace.com. Easy way to get a hold of me. Now, you may hear I'm a little scratchy today. I've been sick since we hung out together last. But hopefully the voice will hold it through our episode here this morning. Now, as always, we have a lot of the normal stuff and a great guest for you today. I think you're really, really going to enjoy it. Luis from San Antonio is here. Luis, you ready for some cold weather? It is coming. We got Rob from Houston is here. Glad you are here, Rob. Hopefully at some point you can get paroled out of Houston like I did. And let's see who else. Let's move on. All right, so let's start with This Week in Tech. It's all of the news that you need to know and why it's important to you. And this one is super duper interesting. Folks, I don't know if you saw this announced yesterday. They started talking about it at the end of last year. And this one is that Vista Equity Partners and another couple of minor partners have gone in to buy Citrix. Now, we know Citrix as this virtualization platform. Hey, Malkit, glad you're here. Virtualization platform. We know it's virtual desktops and such. Well, it's been bought from, a racker from Minneapolis. Former racker. Oh, glad you're here, Norman. But they have bought Citrix, or in the process of buying Citrix. And they're going to actually be combining it with an acquisition they made a couple of years ago, Tibco, a little $2 million acquisition back in 2014, ultimately to create this business dynamics and analytics powerhouse. Ultimately, they're also combining it with another collaboration platform. Some really cool stuff that's going on, and they're making my point, the point I keep making over and over. Hey, Christine. Hey, she's here to see Jackie. Of course she is. And what is it that I keep saying? I keep saying that it's all about cloud specialization this year. We're seeing more and more specialty offerings, and now we're seeing these massive private equity firms piecing together disparate companies to create these. So super interesting what's going on here. Now, so pay attention to that. You're going to see much more like this coming this year. Now, also, if you have or in your life, either directly your child or someone else's, a child between 8 and 12 or 13 years old, you know what Roblox is. It's an online interactive game thing. Well, they had a really significant global outage last fall. And hey, Kevin Grigsby's here. I'm so glad to see you, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. They had a big outage, and earlier this month they posted a very detailed postmortem, and it was really interesting. So a little bit of background: whenever you go in to play this game and you spin up a new app, what they're actually doing is they are provisioning infrastructure geographically closest as possible to where the players are from there. Hey, Brooklyn, glad that you're here, former racker. So glad you were here. Well, and to give you a sense of what they do, they've got, of course, servers. Everybody's got servers, but they're running generally a container-based infrastructure to run all of that. Now, to give you a sense of scale, 18,000 physical servers in their data centers around the world, as well as 170,000 containers to make all this stuff happen. Well, they just hit a massive disaster, 3-day outage last fall in it. And of course, the reason I call this out, and if you're in infrastructure, if you're in development, I'd love for you to go over to, I'll show you the link in a second, where you can click through and read this whole thing. But ultimately, they started when they're having the issues by doing what everyone does, and that's blaming the infrastructure. They tried the control infrastructure. They tried giving it more horsepower. They tried pulling it away. They tried reconfiguration, and ultimately, what happened was it went back to challenges that they were experiencing or they had in just configuration, how logging was happening, not freeing up disk space in those logs. Go look through that if this is the kind of thing that is interest to you, especially if you work in software-defined infrastructure, because the details Oh gosh, the details matter. Hey, Ryan from Bristol in the UK, I am glad that you are here with us today. So if you guys want to, sorry, there's that cold again. If you want to read about this, the link will be coming up shortly, but just go over to rackspace.com/solve/89. This is episode 89. Welcome to episode 89, everybody. All right, with that, let's move on to the cloud releases. What's new from our cloud providers? Well, over at AWS, Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose now delivers to Honeycomb. I have to tell you, I really enjoy bringing up the AWS ones because I just like reading their names. Who thinks of naming things Kinesis Data Firehose going to Honeycomb? It's crazy town. Well, what Kinesis is, of course, Kinesis Firehose is a way to take all this streaming data and shove it into different locations, specifically data warehousing and such. Well, Honeycomb is a logging and analytics service there so that you can really pay attention to what's happening with all the streaming data that's coming in. And if you go back to our previous example, we talk about Roblox. You know, when you're working on a scale of 170,000 containers and you start having issues, you're not going container by container. It takes some level of streaming log service that you can do analytics against, much like this, to be able to get the information that you need. And they talk about that inside of there and show some of their dashboards. Really think you should go read that article. Now, over at Azure Maps now has a new feature, and that is historical weather and air quality and tropical storm information for back as many as 5 to 40 years. Now, this service is being provided by AccuWeather. They're back-ending it and have fed that data into Azure. But now with a single API call, you actually have the ability to get up to 31 days of historical information that, you know, again, could include temperature, precipitation, snowfall, snow depth, water, air quality, all sorts of stuff. So more and more features showing up over in Azure Maps. So go check those out. All of these links are available over at the Solve website. And then lastly, from Google, hey, Philip's here. Good morning, Philip. Glad that you are here as well. Google Anthos Service Mesh dashboards in Cloud Console now supports cross clusters. That'll be Anthos over on vSphere as well as on Bare Metal, which is great. Hey, Manesh from Austin. I'm glad that you're here today. All right, well, folks, that takes us over to, well, here's that link. Go on over to rackspace.com/solve/87. It's supposed to say 89. I didn't update that. Think 89, people. Don't look at that screen right there. I missed one. There's like 5 I need to update in this presentation to do this right. But /89. All right, the job of the day. If you guys are looking for a new job in tech and you're in the application space and you know a little something about Sitecore, well, you may want to head over to rackspace.com/solve/89. and learn about this job. This is a Sitecore architect. Now, Rackspace application architects are the final authority here at Rackspace that represent the final authority and the highest level of knowledge for our e-commerce and content management support here at Rackspace. You're architecting solutions for customers, sometimes doing some debugging and helping if there are challenges. So I encourage you to go check that stuff out. Hey, here's an interesting comment from Susan. She says that ClearCom can work in conjunction with AWS to ensure company outages don't occur. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Go check that out. All right. Hey, look, it's the right number. I love that. So go over to rackspace.com/solve/89 if you want to learn more about this job. If you want to learn about more of any of those cloud updates or the news articles that we talked about. Hey, LinkedIn user, I can't see your name, but I'm glad that you're here. Well, as we started this year, of course, we now take the audio from all of these live sessions and we shove them into the podcast channel. So if you're not already subscribed and you missed one of these, go subscribe to Cloud Talk anywhere where you find podcasts. And you can get that. Now, also, you're going to want to do that anyway, because last week we released a new podcast, not one of these live things, of a conversation I had with Suresh Ranguram, and he is the Chief Growth Officer over at a containers company called Platform 9. And I cannot recommend that company enough, or that episode. The conversation is super fascinating. The life and tech that Suresh has led is super duper interesting. Hey, Santosh, good morning. Pro server from Singapore. Oh, you're up late or up early. I can never tell the time. All right, well, that brings us on to our cloud conversation in discussion. And this starts a whole new series for us over here. Now, I'm about to bring up Jackie Campbell. Now, this is part, if you saw our advertising yesterday, mentioning this episode. This is Women in Tech Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, if not more. We'll bring up an accomplished, amazing women working in tech, and I could think of no one better to bring up to kick this off than a woman I get to work with on a daily basis, partner in crime. We talk to ourselves, not to each other, but to ourselves in work, and her name is Jackie Campbell. And so why don't we go ahead and bring Jackie up to the stage if we could. Jackie, welcome to Cloud Talk Live.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you came here. Now, if we're going to tell the truth, of course, you agreed to this without me actually telling you what you were agreeing to, because I thought you might be a little nervous.
Yeah, you asked me to say yes before you asked, and because I trust you, I said yes, and then I regretted it.
And then
So,
you regret it. But here you are, and thanks so much for coming. And you brought friends.
yes, so there are some. So, Christine Colvison and one of our former rockers in Brooklyn. So, thank you guys for being here and the support. And then also other rockers that were messaging me and sending me good wishes this morning.
So fun. Now, the tech industry is one that still is predominantly employing men. Women are a minority in that. Part of our goal here is to help make sure that lights get shined where it needs to be shined. And you have had a really interesting career, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, because whether we're talking a woman or a man, it's an amazing career, and I think it deserves to be sort of highlighted here. But it started for you with education at Ole Miss. We were chatting about that before, and then off to a master's degree here in San Antonio. So what part? How have you seen education fitting into your career and having been a benefit to you as you've moved into tech?
So the education's played a major part of my career from like an early age as a child. My parents always ingraining that in me of just going ahead and always being willing to learn and always wanting to learn and understanding what takes place and never thinking any question is stupid or dumb. Just raise your hand and ask it. If you don't ask, you're never going to know. So going ahead and really holding those different methodologies with me growing up, it's played a huge part, especially within the tech industry. Everything's changing. You're always learning. Nothing is stagnant. So when I'm in meetings, and I'm in a ton of meetings a day, I will go ahead and ask the questions and then get pinged. Thank you for asking that. I had no idea what was going on. And I'm thankful for my parents for just ingraining that in me as a small child so I can carry that through my life.
That's awesome. Now, the role that you have now is affectionately chief of staff to the chief product officer here at Rackspace. A non-trivial role to have. If we were at Microsoft, your title would be business manager, which I think I actually sort of prefer a little bit, because that means your role is looking after the business of, in this case, the chief product officer, because that gentleman here at Rackspace, his name is Josh Pruitt, which means you're sort of with Josh most of the day in meetings, following him around, and as he is making commitments in different meetings, ultimately it's you that is helping to ensure that everything lines up behind that, to ensure that from a product perspective, we're able to deliver what we need to deliver. A pretty intense job.
It can be. It can be a pretty intense job. The really amazing thing about my role is I work with a ton of leaders cross-functionally throughout the business. And knowing that I have their support, I have Josh's support, and if I need to make a decision that may not be the most favorite decision of the business, I know that my leadership has my back and that I have to look out of what's best for the company long-term strategy. So it can definitely get crazy and intense, but it's a ton of fun. And I love having to think on my feet and work on different things. One of my mentors, Michelle Peterson, who is the chief of staff to our CEO, she's told me that the best thing about our position is that we're utility leaders. We get placed where we need to go, and that we will go ahead and ensure that the strategy gets executed across the way.
Well, and so you didn't come, also, if we put some context to this, you didn't come straight out of University of Incarnate Word into this illustrious position. I mean, you're almost a 10-year racker now. What was your first job at Rackspace?
I was an SMB Cloud IB sales.
What
So
does that mean to somebody who's not a racker?
I was in our small to medium business and working strictly on our OSPC business. So basically the cloud. So I came in having to learn the cloud, understand the cloud, and it was our smaller customers in a much more transactional base.
Right. And then if anybody goes to LinkedIn and looks up Jackie, and you should, because you need to be Jackie's friend, what you'll find is a progression of jobs that each time it's just a click farther north and a click farther north. And here you find yourself as this utility, you call it, Michelle call it a utility player. And I almost don't like it because it almost sounds like a little demeaning, but it's not, because it's getting the things done that need to be done in a way that you get to color outside outside of the organizational lines a lot of times, and just get everybody lined up to execute the strategy.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Now, you mentioned you're in meetings a lot of the day. A lot of those meetings are with our CEO, reading out, how projects are going along. You are giving the status of things. I mean, it's literally you looking straight at Kevin, the CEO, and giving the updates to the team that's there. That's an intense job.
Yes. So it can be intense, but I mean, one of the biggest things I will tell anybody and everybody is to get amazing mentors that can really help you along the way. And I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to have those mentors that will go ahead and coach you and guide you and cheer you on while you're in these meetings. So when I first started presenting to Kevin, I was at that time actually reporting to Josh Pruitt before he was our chief product officer. And Josh basically walked me through how to present, what Kevin would be looking for, and to make sure that I felt comfortable in that type of environment, because it was my first time in the C-suite. And then once I was in there, I had a lot of female mentors that were also in that C-suite, and Christine Colbelson being one of them, Melissa Runty, Michelle Peterson, and they would cheer me on in there. So after I'd present, I'd get, yes, queen, or yes, that's how you do. And it just helped bolster the confidence of, okay, I got this work, now rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Awesome. And then when things wouldn't go well, you just adjust and make it better next time. And one of the things we've learned, especially with presenting to the CEO, well, I could tell you some of these things. How do you prepare to go in and present to the CEO and ensure that successful meeting?
So I know our programs inside and out. So the different initiatives that get aligned for me to go make sure it gets executed effectively. We have prep meetings with the rackers that are going to be in there. Rackers are our employees. We go ahead and we have the prep meetings, making sure everybody's aligned. We know what the messaging is. And I'll typically lead the presentation or lead the meeting to make sure that everything's running smoothly and saying, okay, this is where we are. And then to make sure that things stay on track. So now I have it pretty much down. I've been presenting for about the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I don't do as much of the rehearsals that we would do. But at the very beginning of it, it would be regular rehearsal sessions of, okay, let's make sure that this runs through very smoothly, because time is everything. Time is of the essence, and you want to make sure you get your message across effectively.
Yeah, so true. Now, I was looking at a report from, let's see who did this one. Tech Radius did a 2021 Women in Tech report. And a few of the sound bites that are in here are things like COVID-19 has put severely impacted women who are working in tech. Women in tech tend to carry more of the household. Now women in tech are divided with their impact of the remote work. There's still bro culture to have to deal with. Now, one of the things that I really appreciate about you is when you come to a meeting, you get you. And that may be you, the tech executive. It may be you, the tech mom. We're able to see behind you a lot of artwork that I don't think is your own. It was probably your son's. And then recently, while you're there working, you had your son caught COVID, and to our little Teams channel, you sent out a video, and I wanted to, with your permission, of course, I wanted to show that video to everyone right now, because I think it makes a very interesting point that I want to make sure we cover today. So producer Daniel, let's roll that video.
Wait, what was that?
You gotta get a lot more calls.
Am I on a lot of calls?
Mm-hmm.
So there's your young son and sick with COVID, and he was not off hiding in his room at this point, was he?
No, he
No.
wasn't.
So you're in the middle of presenting to Kevin and the like and other rackers around the world, and literally, where was John at that point when he was doing that?
He was right behind my desk. So I have another desk. So my office used to be a crafting room before COVID. And we put his little toddler bed underneath the desk. And he just will either chill there with mom while I'm working. And he has a reading corner on the side. So he'll grab a book or he'll be on his tablet and he will tell me I need to work harder or I need to get on more calls. And he runs a very tight shift here at the Campbell household.
So that's a great example of how you balance it. But what are some of the struggles? How does that work into your day? How do you deal with making sure that all of the stuff that needs to get done from a corporate perspective happens, but all the important stuff of a mom still can get done as well?
So my husband and I had my husband is self-employed. So he is a CPA. And right now we're going to get ready to get in the heart of tax season. And he's a tax CPA. We had a very long conversation about both of our careers and how we can try to balance it. So I am very fortunate to have an amazing partner alongside me that will support me. So if I do have a pretty large presentation that I need to make sure we have like good focus on, I'll be like, hey, this is my big presentation. Can you make sure to go on duty? And so he's like, gotcha. And then vice versa. If he has a call with a client that they're going to be going into a pretty like prepping for a big audit or something within his world, he'll go ahead and tell me, hey, I'm going to be on the phone with the IRS. Can you make sure you got him? Got him. But if I am on a call with our CEO or I'm on a call with our chief product officer or any of our C levels, they are all amazing and they'll stop me to actually have a conversation with him. Hey, is that a dinosaur in your shirt? What dinosaur is your favorite? And they include him in the conversation or they'll invite him over that, hey, why don't you go hang out with mom? And then we can go ahead and we can all talk. So I hardwire in because technology likes to fail sometimes. So when that happens and my AirPods go out, I'll have my headphones in, I'll unplug, and then they'll talk to him and include me into the conversation,
Right.
pretty much. So it's been awesome to have that culture. And the other big piece is Rackspace really has become, to me, they've always been a very much family-friendly environment, but this just really goes to prove even more so that I was on a call with Josh, our CPO, and my son came running in here playing and went boom, and with a sword, hit me with a sword, and then took off running out. And everybody thought it was like the funniest thing ever.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's we used to be so particular about all of our backgrounds and our people coming in and all of that before COVID kicked in, and now you just kind of get what you get. Santosh makes a comment, and you mentioned mentors a couple of times, and I thought it would be great to maybe talk about mentoring a little bit more. And that is, this is getting a mentor is very critical for growth. It blooms your confidence. Great to see women in tech. So how did you first start or seeking out a mentor? How did you go about that process?
So when I first started at Rackspace, one of my first leaders, Carlton Martindale, he went ahead and told me that, hey, it's going to be very important for you to have a mentor and to learn to grow, and that he saw something in me that he wanted to make sure would continue down that path. My other leader, Bobby Henry, who is our senior manager at the time, he said the same thing, and he lined me up with one of our female VPs to sit with me, talk with me about different career and growth paths. So they really kickstarted it for me. And then from there, I started finding mentors of my own that would help me grow because I saw them and their success, and I wanted to learn how do they do it. And mind you, I'm almost a 10-year rocker. And when I started here, I didn't have kiddos then. And in my mind, it's like, okay, you're super successful and awesome. How can I grow up to be like you?
Right.
And so Heather, I mean, I'll just throw a few names out if I can, but like Heather Arrington, Liz Maya, Christine Colbelson, you heard me mention her name a few times, and Melissa Renti, Michelle Peterson. Like, I have an amazing list of female leaders who have helped guide me along the way and really teach me to stand up for, hey, what are your non-negotiables? What's important to you? What do you see in your career path? And one thing that I've learned from our CEO as well is there isn't necessarily one straight path that you can go on for your career, that you can go to different parts of the business and learn and be a people leader or an IC, an individual contributor, and kind of bounce around for your own personal growth as well.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us will get wrapped up in the fact that, hey, I work in this department, or I only work with this technology, or I only lead these types of people. And somebody who really is interested in growth, then really, I think, needs to be open to the fact that whether you're officially managing thousands or indirectly leading thousands, which is, I would say, a position that you find yourself in at this point. There's absolutely something to be learned all along the way. I love the advice you got around what are your non-negotiables. Was that challenging to work through, or has that list for you of non-negotiables in your life kind of morphed over time?
It's morphed. So it has morphed over time of, okay, this is what I want, and this is what's important to me. And to be able to go in and clearly articulate that with leaders, it's within the different positions that I've worked in, I've been told by the leaders that, hey, that's awesome that you know what you want, and it's awesome that that you're not afraid to say it. So building up that kind of confidence as well is something that my mentors have helped me go through. And not just saying I only have the female mentors, but I also have male mentors too. So like Josh was one of my mentors, still is one of my mentors. You are one of them. I talked to him like, Jeff, I need to bounce an idea off. And we go ahead and talk really quick. So having, and then I have a bunch of the leaders all throughout the globe that I can ping and talk to, Rodrigo or Sean Gervin, who leads our acquisition in Canada team. So going ahead and having like my own little tech council that I can bounce ideas off of, talk to, and know that they're going to be there to help support me and to help guide me.
So, I mean, mentors we can look at in two different ways. The first is they're the people who are going to give us some advice on what we should do when we have a question. But ultimately, what you're cultivating with a mentor is you're building this cheerleading squad who are your advocates and want to see you succeed, especially as you ask their advice and execute against their advice. You become they become your cheerleading squad, which is every individual needs to have, because not every day is the easiest day. So with that, Jackie, kind of one of our last questions I wanted to ask is, now you're talking to the next Jackie who's coming out of college, coming maybe out of grad school. What advice do you have for those new rackers or new women entering the workforce?
Take charge of your career and know that you don't think because you don't know something that you can't do it or you're not qualified to do it. You can learn it. And it all goes into the attitude that you take with you of, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to be able to do it, and know that you'll have the support alongside you. So going ahead, I see Megan saying, talking to me, but that's the biggest thing, like own your career path. I had my, one of my college professors in IT tell me, hey, you're really good at this. You should look at majoring in IT. And I was like, what? No. And I didn't believe in myself. And now like I message him like, so guess what I do? So it all changes. So definitely have the confidence in your own ability, and don't ever think, and I take the advice, my parents are my guiding star. They helped me throughout my entire life and career. And just, I carry the advice they've always given me. Never think a question is too silly to ask. Just go ahead and ask it anyway, because I guarantee you most people in the room have the same question.
And look at you now. Jackie, thank you so much for being on the live program today. Just even by looking at the comments as we've gone, you have really, I think, reached a bunch of people here today. And I'm grateful that you went out on the ledge and did something a little outside of your comfort zone and got on with our good live friends today.
No, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jeff, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for the kind comments as well. And I really appreciate you pulling me out of my comfort zone. So
absolutely. So
I
folks,
volunteer everybody else.
There you go. So this is the first of our Women in Tech Tuesday. So you can look for more of these the first Tuesday of every month, or maybe any Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. And I hope everybody has an amazing rest of your week. We're supposed to be back here on Thursday, but I'm having a question mark on my guest. So we'll see how that turns out. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Jack, thanks so much for being here. And well, I guess I'll see you in the next meeting.
I'll see you in the next one. Bye, Jeff.